Reporting from the floor today. Just did a breath work session, and so I don't feel like getting up because the floor is so much better. Oh, no, actually, the space I'm in is so much better. Oh, but I just wanted to reflect on the chaos of the last couple of days, which have been unbelievable since I came back. And man, I mean, to say it was hard is an understatement. These last couple of days, um, I've been expressing anger, I've been expressing grief, I've been finding creative ways, dance, expression, all these beautiful things where words fail sometimes, you know. And since I came back to Arizona, I've been confronted with such hard things, you know. I've been confronted with myself. I've been confronted with the reality I've lived in for the past couple of years. I've been confronted with my mother and the challenges there. I've been confronted with a relationship or a relational mirror of another person. And God, so much came up with all of this the last couple of days. And I try to express as I'm going through it. And I made, by the way, my video got flagged. I made an angry video. I'm not sure. When I watch some people's videos on YouTube and they curse, they're usually bleeped out. I curse a lot. And I was starting to think to myself, Jen, maybe you shouldn't curse so much. And then part of me is like, no, I love cursing. It's the New Yorker in me. But then part of me is like, is that what you want to portray? Is that the voice you want to work from? But sometimes I do like to say, fluck it. My stuff has been flagged before. For instance, I've posted a few Instagram things in the past that have been flagged and taken down for inappropriate topics or the way that I speak or maybe cursing, I don't know. It says it goes against guidelines. And so I guess I cursed a lot in my last video. I curse a lot in all of my videos though. So I'm starting to think, well, maybe instead of cursing, Jen, maybe you could express yourself in another way that doesn't have to show up on YouTube. And so I've always loved to dance. Not any kind of like choreographed dance. I used to do ecstatic dancing a lot. And the only way I can describe ecstatic dancing is it's like when your soul moves, when your soul guides you. And it's not really rhythmic. You're kind of in your own world and you're just letting your body speak. So sometimes words fail, you know, and I love words and I love the poetry that comes through genuine expression. But sometimes too much talking, flucking drives me crazy because it's too much words, you know? Sometimes there are things that can't be expressed with words that the body just needs to release. I had a situation with somebody this past week that has been very on and off, this very beautiful, confronting, I should say, mirroring relationship that really taught me a lot and was really beautiful. And you know, sometimes what I've learned in life is there are some connections that come into your life that are they're meant to stay. And you know, there's that expression, you know, they're there for a season or a reason, a blessing, or I don't want to say a curse. I don't think anybody in your life is ever a curse. I usually think like if you deal with, say, wounding like rejection, abandonment, people pleasing, all these kinds of things, you're usually met with another person that mirrors that, right? Like if you haven't healed through this fully, you're met with another person that mirrors that back to you. And it's like oh my God. And you can spend most of your life like running from this mirror, or you can face it. And that's what me and this person, or what I was confronted with in this person, which is actually really beautiful. I just realized towards the end of it that we were still kind of trying to prove ourselves to each other. And I think it's kind of brave to recognize it and say, okay, maybe this has run its course. And as much as I love this person and this connection and what it taught me and what it mirrored back to me, maybe it's safe to let it rest. Because once you learn the lesson or you see the mirror clearly, then I think that's when you can change and evolve. And I had a friend where this happened to me, and we mirrored each other so deeply, and we kept doing this thing back and forth, like trying to prove ourselves to each other and prove what we meant and prove what we were trying to say. And we were doing the same thing essentially, until one day, which I'm grateful for, she broke the curse. And she very compassionately, after kind of rough waters, but very compassionately said, I recognize these patterns within our connection. And I recognize how we are mirroring it back to each other. This is really challenging, and I haven't figured out a way to work through that other than to acknowledge it, appreciate it, be grateful for it, compassionate towards it, and then say, but this is where we part ways. Not forever maybe, but this is where the lesson is learned. And this person did that for me. She didn't do it in the kindest way. And so when I was presented with the situation this time, I wanted to do it in a kinder way. Because this person, I mean, I think that's the greatest gift from God, is when they send you a divine mirror, you know? And when a person can it be a mirror, and you can look at them and see, oh, this is what I love about them. And you're just talking to yourself. I noticed this person, when he would talk to me, it's like he was talking to himself. And then I noticed when I would talk to him, I would also be talking to myself, which is kind of beautiful. And but I recognized we were kind of sometimes using each other for validation or to prove ourselves in some way, when I don't think we had to. And so I didn't know how to kindly address this without stopping it. And maybe evolving through it wasn't necessarily necessary. Maybe it was just acknowledging that and then being able to make peace with it. When I look into this divine mirror, I want him to also see what I see. And I know he wanted me to see what he saw. And I think we reached that point. And I think that's sometimes okay to walk away from that with love. At least I hope. But anyway, I discovered that dance and this, well, in my other video when I was talking about being unhinged, I love this primal energy, this primal showing your anger, but in a healthy way, in an expressive way, and not pretending like everything is okay, but being able to be like, fuck, I'm angry today, and this is my expression of my anger. Like, I love this because it's raw. And I talked about how I met so many people traveling that were such expressions of this, the people that lived off the land. I like this primitive living off the land, kind of going against the grain, kind of going against the crowd, and losing everything, living with very little, being a renegade and a rebel. I like these people very much. um, because I think they live in a way that goes against societal norms. You know, they're not the home and picket fence kind of people. They rebel and they're angry and they're joyful. And I really like this. I really like people that aren't afraid of this. This is what I talked about when I said unhinged. I'll try to curse less so I don't get flagged, but I'll say fluck instead of the other one I like better. But anyway, I say the real words when I'm dancing or when I can express myself in a better way, where it's not harmful to viewers. But anyway, I'll try not to curse, but I can't guarantee. I can't guarantee that. And anyway, whatever. So yeah. So. But I'm learning in this process of coming back and facing my reflection in many ways through my mother, through this beautiful other reflection in my life, through coming back and facing reality, coming here and, going over the past 2 years and what that's taught me and how everything was beautifully stripped from me. I met so many people too that go through like these dark nights of the soul is what it's called. These very dark passages where they're not very kind. They can't be happy. They fall into deep depressions. And we see it all the time, and we're so quick to judge another person's experience. I certainly have done that in the past. But it's like sometimes you have to go to this depths of hell and you have to become unhinged, like I talked about. The shadow is where the light is. It really is. I spent most of my life just in the light, just up here, without getting into the depths, getting into the darkness, and like dancing with my demons, literally. And so dance is like where words fail, the body speaks. And so I found this beautiful course, the Body Temple Church, it's called. Oh, God. And it's just like, everything, all this passion, this grief, this joy, this expression, this sensuality can come out in this visceral, expressive way. And it's animalistic, And afterwards you feel so light because you're not boxed in with words, with the same words over and over and over. Now it's like the body is expressing. The body's expressing everything you've held inside, and it feels so different. Because sometimes I'm tired of words, especially the same words over and over, even though I love words in a poetic sense, in metaphors, in all these things. I learn, I'm pet sitting for a cat right now, and I always seem to have cats in my life. And cats are such beautiful, beautiful creatures. I mean, everybody always loves dogs, right? I mean, a lot of dog people, but cat people are special. And it's because cats are extremely spiritual. They're very selective with their energy, and they're also not always pleasant. A cat goes to you when they're ready, and a cat will be almost vicious sometimes with boundaries. They if they don't want to be touched, if they don't want to, they will let you know. This cat is the most aloof cat I've ever met. And we have similar personality traits. Like when she's joyful and playful and nurturing, oh God, she's amazing. But when she doesn't want to be bothered, she doesn't want to be bothered. And she owns that, And I kind of like this in cats. Dogs are different, dogs are like this, dogs are really a reflection of just loyalty and love. They're like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Look at me, look at me, look at me, pet me, touch me, be with me, and it's very sweet, and there's something beautiful about that, because we need dogs for that reason sometimes. My next house sit will be for a dog, so that'll be a good contrast. But also sometimes we need to be the cat, and we need to be go into the inner world. Cats are, go back to ancient Egypt, where they really honored and respected cats, and they need to be, they were honored, they were revered, as very spiritual, but very discerning and very selective, and not afraid to show this kind of sassy, vicious side when they need to. It's very matriarchal energy. Think of like a mama bear with her cubs. She could look sweet, but you don't fuck with her. And then we need that sometimes, and then we need dogs to remind us of all the love and beauty in the world, and the sweetness and all of that. And so, yeah. But anyway, since I found this dance, which I'll put a video up, it's pretty savage, but it's incredible. When I first got to Arizona, the communities that I was drawn to was sort of the more wild and primitive. I think I talked about that in my last video, not the love and light ones, the ones where it's raw expression, where you dance, where you express yourself in a very visceral kind of poetic way. And so I did a lot of ecstatic dance, and I remember the first time I did it, I remember the euphoria I felt afterwards. I didn't know, my body was just, at first it's like a little bit awkward because you're like dancing with a bunch of people and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then after that, it's just like, you just let go, and the judgment you have on yourself goes away. And the judgment that you had, yourself or others, mostly it's ourselves. We don't really judge others. I think we just judge ourselves, and it kind of goes outward. But it just goes away. And so when I was doing this dance, like all this guttural emotion comes up, and I'm like screaming in pain, and all of this stuff of unspoken words, and all the times I didn't speak up for myself, and I didn't know how to set boundaries, and I didn't know, gaslighting, and all of this stuff. And it's funny. Everything I've blamed people for, I've done. Everything people have blamed me for, they do. It's incredible. Life is like a hall of mirrors, and everybody is a mirror. Every freaking body is a mirror. And it's unbelievable, because we spend so much time defending ourselves to each other. And I think that was happening in this relationship that dissolved recently, is like we just spent time defending each other. And it was almost like looking in the mirror, you kind of have to do that. Defend yourself to yourself, And there's a really cool book called, what's it called, Jen? It's called, Holographic Universe. Sorry, The Holographic Universe. And it's kind of the idea that everything is a projection from this one thing. So this one source of light, this one source of creation or whatever, this one consciousness, let's say. And then everything is reflected out from this one source of consciousness. And think of, if the perfect mirror to me would be a child, because they're wholesome and they're pure. And when they're wholesome and pure, they're not projecting anything. They're not trying to prove anything. They're not trying to convince you of anything. They're just pure. And so it's very hard, I think, for someone to get have a visceral reaction to a baby, when they see a baby just being pure and open and stuff like that. And then as that baby gets older, the mirror starts to get a little dust on it, get some cracks in it. It starts to change over time. And so its view of the world becomes tarnished and shattered. And that's how they receive everything from that projection. So when you think of it this way, it becomes very hard to blame other people or to, you know what I mean, to have this kind of push and pull, because you're like, oh, I'm just looking at myself. Oh, this person is just looking at themselves. And it's really hard then to really judge people, because you're like, oh, okay, what's keeping me in this loop? What's keeping me doing this over and over and over again? And I heard a lot of people say boundaries are, and I used to always say this, boundaries don't have to be electrical fences. I had to learn this myself, because I would always, in the past, like when I was in my 20s and 30s, if I got into a bad relationship or something ended, or a bad friendship or whatever, I would block people and I would cut people off, like it's terrible. And then it was done to me. And I was like, oh, this is horrible, but like in a vicious way, like in a not good way. And when you feel it back, it's, it's terrible. I'm like, I don't want to do this to people. I don't want to have this. And then some people say that, well, you shouldn't have boundaries. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a beautiful shamanic healer, and I'm like, does that mean you don't grow if you don't choose to work through something? Does that mean that there's no growth? And we were talking about it, and she said, not necessarily. She said, I believe some people are just sent, to bring you back to yourself, to show you a mirror if you can't figure it out on your own, and sometimes people grow out of connection with each other if it's repeating a cycle, repeating the same thing over and over. And so I said, well, like, how do you separate from someone gracefully? How do you do that? It's such a horrible thing. And I've had people separate from me not gracefully. And I've had people separate from me gracefully. But I recently thought about an old ex of mine who separated from me. Well, it was rocky, and then the final separation was graceful. I mean, she spoke very honestly about just knowing it was a completion. And I was so angry at first. But I couldn't be angry because it was also beautiful, the connection and our relationship and everything I was learning, and the way that it up-leveled me, the different layer of growth I had found because of meeting this person. And I was like, damn, I mean, I couldn't really be angry. It took me some time to realize, but I couldn't really be angry or hurt by that. And so these are just some of the things that I'm learning through mirrors of people. We're a hall of mirrors, It's unbelievable. But yeah, I'm gonna get up off the floor now and share my crazy video of dance because it's really helped me release so much. All right, guys, see you.